who's your ideal client? Do you know who your ideal client is? Like, do you know what they're thinking, how they're operating, how they move around in the world? And I ask you this question because one of the biggest mistakes that I see entrepreneurs that are getting started, they're starting their business, or maybe they've even been in business for a while, but what happens is that they've hit a plateau. They're not making as much money as they'd like to, and this could be the problem to it. And it's that when we're trying to market, we have a solution, to a problem, and we think that everyone that has this problem needs this solution. But that's the wrong way of thinking of this, because what you want to think about is an ideal person so you can learn how to speak to them. Because when you try to market to everyone, you market to no one. That's like marketing 101. Please remember, write this down. When you try to market to everyone, you're marketing to no one. So I'll give you an analogy with this. It comes from one of my mentors, Dean Graziosi, and he talked about this years ago, where if two people were to go fishing on a specific day, and I don't fish, so excuse me with this, but it's a great analogy. Two people wake up one morning and they decide to go fishing, and they challenge each other, see who's gonna catch more fish that day. One goes out to the ocean, to the pier, and they're just sitting there with their fishing pole trying to see what fish will bite. The other one decides to put a strategy in place. And this particular person goes to the local bait store and asks about, I'm really wanting to fish some salmon today. What would be the best place to get salmon, and what's the best type of bait? And so the person at the bait store says, oh, well, salmon loves this type of bait. I have no idea. Do they eat worms? I don't know. I don't do fishing. Like I said, I'm borrowing this example from Dean. So they go in and they get the bait, and then the person asks them, do you know any particular place where I could catch more salmon? He says oh yeah, if you go to this particular river and you go there between 7 and 9 a.m., that's when the salmon's riding against the current, and you'll be able to catch so many salmon in that 2 hour slot frame, and you'll be able to get so many fish, and you need this type of bait, and this is how you're going to do it, and these are the instruments that you need. Wow, this person goes out there, spends 2 hours at the right location with the right bait, catching the right fish. The other person comes back at the end of the day after spending 12 hours on the pier, getting sunburnt with only 2 fish. But the person that went and got the salmon, they got like a gazillion fish. So you get the analogy, whether you fish or you don't fish, because I don't, but we all get the analogy with this. So the question is, ask yourself, where are you fishing, and what kind of understanding do you have of your ideal client? So I want to share with you 11 questions that are crucial, and I invite you to pull out pen and paper, write these down, and have them next to you, or even put them in a Google Docs or something so that you can reference this constantly, because once you know your ideal client, it's so much easier to speak to them than to try and, like I said before, market to everyone. So the first thing that I want you to do is think of one person that you've worked with in the past. And if you're starting a new business and you're like, oh, well, I never really sold, my product or my service, I want you to think of someone that you maybe did a test run with, that they did have good results. And if you're someone that has had a business for a while and you're trying to figure out, who is my ideal client? Because it might have shifted through time. I want you to just think of one particular person that had amazing results with you. They were good listeners, they were action takers, they were coachable, they were open-minded. I want you to think of that particular person and what their name is. Again, we want to try and go deep into the psychology of one person instead of trying to market to everyone. And I will caution you that you're going to try and think of oh, well, this was an ideal client and this other person was also an ideal client. Pick one. And let's just start with one right now. So the first question you want to ask yourself is, what's their age range? Are they in their 40s? Are they in their 50s? Are they millennials? What age are they? Second question you want to ask is, what do they do for a living? Do they have a job? Are they entrepreneurs? Are they a stay-at-home mom? Are they employed? Are they self-employed? Solopreneurs? Do they have a big business, a big company? What do they do for a living? The third question you want to ask is, what is their home situation? Do they have kids? If so, how many? What ages? Do they have pets? If so, how many? What kind of pets? And do they have aging parents or not? Do they live by themselves? Do they live, in a couple? What is their home situation? Question number 4, and I hope that I'm not going too fast, that you can jot them down. Question number 4 is, what's their day-to-day life like? Like, what do they do day in and day out? The day in and day out of a brand new mom is going to be very different than the day in and day out of the life of a millennial. So what does their day-to-day life look like? 5th question, where do they hang out? Do they hang out online, offline? Maybe they're not even into social media. Maybe they are. If they are on social media and online, do they listen to podcasts? What social medias are they on? This is so important because I see a lot of people, especially people that are getting started on entrepreneurship, that they think that they have to be posting on every social media platform. And that's almost like impossible and actually exhausting if you think about it. So you really want to hone in on this. It's not, if your target audience and your ideal client is a millennial, they're not going to be hanging out on Facebook. They might be on Instagram or on Discord, whereas your target audience or your ideal client that's like 40 plus might be on Facebook and on Instagram, or maybe even Pinterest. Maybe your background is in the creative world or the artistic world, where there's more appreciation for beauty. A great platform for that would be more of Instagram. It's much more visual, as well as Pinterest. But maybe it's someone that's in the writing world and they're hanging out more on Twitter. So you really want to be specific about this and ask those questions. Like I was talking to a client several weeks ago that she told me that she didn't even know how to listen to podcasts. So that kind of perked my ears. I was like, oh my God, I thought all my clients listened to podcasts, and she didn't know if this was free, if it wasn't. So very, very important. Where are they hanging out? Are they hanging out online, offline? What do they listen to? Are they listening to the radio? Are they watching TV? Just all these little nuances are very important. And the more detail you can get, the better. The 7th question you want to ask is, when it comes to fill in the blank, and you fill it in with your industry, what's most important to them? So when it comes to entrepreneurship, what's the most important thing to them? Maybe it's self-growth, maybe it's cash flow, maybe it's connecting with other entrepreneurs and networking. So when it comes to, maybe you're in the health and wellness industry, what's most important to your ideal client? Maybe it's losing weight, maybe it's longevity, and having a long life. So think about your industry and what's most important to your ideal client. Number 8, what's the major issue that they're facing? And with this I mean, what are those things, that constant worry that they have, those worries that are keeping them up at night? For someone that's in the health and wellness industry, their ideal client, what might be keeping them up at night is that they're super overweight. They're worried that they're going to get diabetes or they're going to have a heart attack of some sort. So you really want to pay attention to that. Like, what's that thing spinning in their head at nighttime that they wake up and they're thinking about? If you're in the financial world, maybe it's about what's keeping them awake at night is their investments. Maybe they've invested in the stock market and they're worried about a recession coming, and how are they going to deal with that? Their portfolio's worth, 50% less, and they don't know if they're going to have enough for their retirement. So you really want to hone in onto what are the specific worries that are keeping them up at night. Number 9, what are the excuses that are keeping them from taking action, from getting what it is that they want? So for the person that's overweight, if you're in the health and wellness industry, maybe the excuse is I'm too busy. I'm a busy mom. I get anxious all the time, and I don't have time to exercise. So what are those excuses that they're telling themselves that they can't do? Maybe it's time, maybe it's energy, maybe it's money, like what are they telling themselves of why they can't overcome this problem? Number 10 is, are they aware of the real problem that they have? Because maybe for this person, let's say that the ideal client is someone that's overweight, and they think that the problem is that they need to lose weight. But the real problem is that if they don't lose weight, they're going to be classified as pre-diabetic or diabetic already. So you want to go deeper into what that problem is for them. And number 11, our last one as we're wrapping up, is, are they aware of the solution? Are they aware of how they can lose this weight and avoid getting, being diabetic with just these 3 simple shifts in their diet? Maybe they need to go on keto or something like that. So you really, really want to pay attention to these 11 questions and go over them, rewind, go back in the video and listen to it again. If you found this informative, hit subscribe, be part of our community, our life, and see what else we have in store for you. And I'll have more videos that I put out weekly. So thank you so much for being here. I hope these were helpful. I know, and I can guarantee you that if you go through this exercise that might be tedious and you give it some time and you have that sheet of paper next to you, it's going to streamline everything else in your marketing efforts and your copy and the way you speak to your ideal clients and everything. So I highly, highly encourage you to do this exercise and comment below. Let me know what you thought was useful and if you did it and how that panned out for you. Thanks so much for being with me. Take care.